Hi, this video is to help you complete your teaching portfolio rationales. And so why are we creating rationales? Well, in order to be recommended for a CTE teacher's license, all candidates have to demonstrate their proficiency and growth in each of the 10 standards in the state of Hawaii. To meet this requirement, the Alternative Certification Program asks you to put together a teaching portfolio with 2 teaching artifacts and 2 rationales for each standard to be completed by the end of the program. The idea here is that you have some sort of evidence that you've thought and reflected over in which it demonstrates your ability to reach that standard. Because it's such a large portfolio and a large task, to make this manageable, we have built an evaluation and reflection week at the end of the 5 modules that you'll find either in your courses or in your practicum. During this week, you will have the opportunity to select a teaching artifact from one of the course assignments you just completed and connect it to one of the standards. One thing that's important is you should not use the exact same teaching artifact and rationale for multiple courses. However, some assignments are quite large and they cover many standards, and so you can use parts of that large assignment to represent a different standard. To help you figure out which course assignments go with what standard, you can click here for a program overview and it will list which standards go with which course. To create a teaching rationale, there are 3 parts. First, describe it. You would basically be taking what you have from your course assignment or your course syllabus that lists what the teaching artifact is, and you would go ahead and so that the reader has a context of what the assignment was about. Part 2, you want to connect the teaching artifact to a substandard and assess your proficiency. So you'll notice from the program overview that there are lots of standards that represent an overall standard. So for example, Standard 1 is represented by 1.1a, 1.2, 1.3, etc. And so you would pick one of those to be your substandard and assess your proficiency on that. Part 3 is to improve your proficiency for the particular substandard that you are looking at. And it does not have to be the one your teaching artifact is addressing, but it can be any substandard for that particular overall standard. So let's go ahead and look at it a little closer by looking at an example. And we can go through and see the same thing. So the first part, describe a teaching artifact that represents the standard. And so this person has developed a teaching artifact for the case study development in the Ed Psych class, which you should include, describes that teaching artifact, what they did, and then results of what you actually did. So in this case, this person chose an automotive class at Mililani High School and talked about what they basically did in that assignment. Then in part 2, you want to connect the teaching artifact to a substandard. So using the program overview that this particular assignment addresses 1.2, and so you want to look in this language for anything that you think connects to your assignment you just did. And so the case study development does actively seek out information about learners' interests, because you actually get to interview students and ask them about different parts of their development. Then, once you have done that, you would want to say, how did I do? And so there is a course assignment rubric that goes with that, and your teacher has scored it, so you'd want to look and see how you did. And you can also look and self-assess yourself. So if you think you did better or worse, you can do that too. And then provide criteria on why you did or why you scored what you scored. And it should include the assignment rubric as your guide. Then finally in part 2, how do you know that you actually scored that? And so you want to provide the actual evidence. And so for example, during the case study in this, the person doing it found out that the kids in their class or his or her class likes hands-on, doesn't like to sit around all day. They also said they like automotive because they get to do something. And so this is evidence to show that you actively seek out information about the learner's interests. Part 3 is looking at how do you improve yourself for this particular standard, which is Standard 1. And so you don't have to use the same one you just did, but look at the other other ones on the program overview and say, oh, I really could be better at 1.3. And then specifically say what you want to be better on. So I want to improve my proficiency on finding teaching strategies that will develop my students' social development, which is working with others effectively. You need to then research a little bit, and this is important to the program because we want to understand how you learn how to learn a bit more. And so you can use your cooperating teacher, you can use your college supervisor, you can use any sort of resource at your disposal, including the internet, videos, whatever will give you more information about how to reach and improve on this standard. And then you want to show how you're going to implement those findings. So in this case, speaking to Mr. Arnie Duncan, collaborative learning groups called Jigsaw was a strategy in which this person wanted to demonstrate it, and so he or she talked about how they were going to implement into their automotive class. And that's it. So that would show that you were able to describe the teaching artifact, you would connect it to the standard, and then find a way to improve yourself on the standard. Good luck.